Over the years, as I've advocated for women who are victims of sexual exploitation and trafficking, I've had many people ask me, how does it happen? How do these women become exploited? Well, so glad you asked me that, because today we're going to have a courageous survivor with us who's going to tell her story. Cassandra Diamond, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Cheryl.
It's so great to have you here. And I know it is never easy to talk about things that are so painful for you personally. So thank you for your courage in coming here today.
Glad to be here.
So tell me how this all started. How did you get involved with Your Trafficker?
As a young person, I was confronted by many hardships, abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, marginalization. And those had left me vulnerable to persons who could make it seem like they loved me and truly cared about me. And so when I had met my trafficker, that's exactly what he did. He made it seem like he could take care of me, and he also, what really got me was when he made me feel protected and safe for the first time in my life.
So what a path he must have taken you on then, to go from feeling so safe and so protected with this hero kind of figure in your life, and then he starts, tell me how the exploitation started.
He listened to me. He made me feel important, and in feeling that way, I opened up to him and told him things that I wanted deeply. And he made me believe that we could get those things together. And so I had started really doing what he had said to have this dream come true. And part of that dream of his was to take all of the money that that I would be making.
So he started telling you that if you slept with other men, that it would just be short term. This is kind of how it goes, right? And then that money would go toward building your future together.
Yes, except for it was a bit more diabolical in the sense where he was working in massage parlors. And so because massage parlors are licensed, it seemed like it was socially accepted and sanctioned. And so he made me think that what I was doing wasn't really that bad. So.
And did it stay in massage parlors the whole time?
No.
So it escalates over time?
Yes.
So what's going on inside of you as you're seeing this escalation, and this hero is pushing you further and further out, maybe further than you really want to go?
So in my mind, I'm thinking that, he does love me. He really is going to take care of me. He really is going to protect me. This is just for a short time. But then as I was realizing that he was lying, right? Because what he was telling me wasn't coming true. And so as more of that was adding up, and more of it appeared to be lies, by then I realized that I had become very hopeless myself. And so in becoming hopeless, I stopped trying to get out of the industry. I started to believe the things he was telling me, because now he started telling me that I was worthless and that nobody would want me, and that I was unimportant.
Wow. And was there violence eventually in the relationship?
Yes, there was always violence in the relationship. Because of my early childhood experience, violence had become normalized in my life. So I didn't recognize the violence because I was so used to it.
People ask me all the time, so I understand, how these girls can fall in love, and I understand how they can be deceived and all of that. But when it becomes apparent, when things start kind of falling apart and the trafficker tends to get more abusive to keep you, why not run away at that point? What was holding you there?
So it wasn't, in fact, that I was chained somewhere, not to my arms or my legs, but my mind. He now had me believing that I wouldn't amount to anything, and that I hadn't a future away from him or outside of the industry. And I really felt that way because of what I had been doing.
And I totally understand that. So what was it that finally got you out of it, to push you to leave?
I wish I could look at you and say I was this amazing, brave woman. I wish I could. But my trafficker took up with another girl. And him taking up with another girl was what freed me, because my trafficker was dangerous, and I didn't believe I could safely get away from him. I thought he would come after me, and I thought he would come after my family. even after he broke up with me, I still had to work at the spas. It took me about 8 or 9 months to be able to actually get away from the spas.
Wow. And did you have help?
I had one person. There was one person in my life I had known since I was a little girl. Her name is Kathy, and her husband Jim, and they had always welcomed me into their home. And so they had welcomed me back, and they allowed me to come and live with them. And it was there that I found safety, I found love, and I found a family that I had been searching for all my life.
Okay, we are going to continue with your story. You're free, but there's a long road ahead of you for healing. We're going to return to her story in just a moment. We are back with Cassandra Diamond, who survived 10 years of being trafficked by the man that she thought was her boyfriend. We left off, you were able to finally leave that life, and now you're starting recovery. So tell me what recovery begins to look like.
Oh, recovery began to look like simply a safe place to go. It was a family that loved me, and it was an opportunity to start to explore faith.
Yeah, you reached out to God, so tell me about how that happened.
Well, it wasn't the first time I had reached out to God. It was in fact the third time. All of the times previously, when I had needed God very desperately, I had opened the Bible. And I opened it up the first time to Ecclesiastes, the first page. Vanity of vanity, life is meaningless. And I had known that. That's why I had come to the Bible to seek God. And so when that was my response the first time, I was a little put off. The second time, now I'm being trafficked, and I was desperate, and I sought God. And I opened the Bible to the first page of Ecclesiastes.
Oh no.
Vanity of vanities, life is meaningless. But this time I slammed the Bible shut, and I said, thanks for telling me, because now I know that it's not me that you love, it's just the others, because I've always known that God loves. This time, 3 days after September 11th, 2004, that's the day I exited, and I slept for 3 days. I had been in the home of a Christian family, and I had been able to watch them change through the power of Jesus and through their faith. And so this time, I sought the Lord again, and I opened the Bible. I always somehow knew to go to the Word. I opened it again to Ecclesiastes, the first page. Vanity of vanities, life is meaningless. Except for this time, I wouldn't have that. I turned my head to the heavens, and I started talking. I said, don't you see? I'm broken. I've got nowhere else to go. I'm asking you. I've seen you. I know who you are, Jesus. I know that you work in the lives of others, and I know you love. And I need you. And I started fumbling through the Psalms, and I was just pouring out my heart. I finally came to Psalm 102, and that psalm, after reading it, was the story of my life. And I literally dropped to my knees. But I asked God to kill me. I said, kill me right now or save me right now. But whatever you do, you have to do it right now, because I can't breathe another breath.
Wow.
Yeah, I told Jesus that I made my life a mess, and that my life was my responsibility, and that I knew that he was the only one that could get me out of this situation. And it was in that moment, no fireworks, but a nice calm peace came over me. And I sat down, and that would be the start of about 4 years of reading the Bible for about 4 to 8 hours a day.
Wow.
I couldn't put it down.
Okay, so you're in this recovery, you're reading the Bible 48 hours a day. What is happening on the inside of you?
Oh, I had come to believe so many lies about myself, about the world. My trafficker had me thinking and believing that the people who did care about me, in fact, had me believing that they didn't. And so now here I am watching them care for me. Here I am seeing that no, he was lying. And with God's help, I was able to finally start to explore really the meaning of life, what I was missing, and my purpose. I was purposeless before.
Tell me about the idea of grace, because that was something you shared before this interview, which I thought was so interesting. You always were used to people giving to you expecting something back.
Yes.
Right? So, and grace is something that you just receive as a gift and there's no expectation of anything. Tell me about how strange that was for you.
It was like a grenade, and I was waiting for this grace grenade to go off because everything was very much so reciprocal. You did not get something without having to give something back, and often you had to pay back 10 times more than what was given you, and sometimes what was asked of you was just too much. And so after I had given my heart to the Lord, I became involved with my church that I'm still very involved with. And this community of faithful women, particularly, and men, came around me, and they would be so kind as to check in with me and do things for me and take me places. And I was expecting to have to return something, but they weren't telling me, you know, they weren't asking for anything in return. And when I would try to give a favor back, they would say, no, I don't need it, it's okay. And because I didn't know what to think yet, because I was so in my mind trained to return, I didn't know how to take it. And I would be often praying, God, what am I supposed to do? They've given me something. What am I supposed to do? And it just felt actually quite terrible because all of this unknown.
Everything's upside down.
Everything was upside down.
We are running out of time. You know, you went from being trafficked to now being the executive director of a charity, doing advocacy work. There's been so much change in your life. I'm just thinking of that one person who's watching right now who might be in the situation you're in. We know what happens to women across Canada,
Yes.
all across this nation. What would you say to her who feels like she can't escape right now? The same threats, the same lies she's believing about her worthlessness. What hope would you give her?
Actually, that's just it. If for a second someone could believe or think, imagine that they were worth it, that they had value, that they had a future and a purpose, if they could just for a second even borrow hope, if it's not their own, that will help them pick up the phone to call somebody that could help. And I would like to invite anybody who is right now being trafficked, I would like to invite them to join the survivor lived experience community. We need them with us. We need them here.
And there is a whole community there. Thank you so much for coming to share your story today.
Thanks, Sharon.
I appreciate the courage that it took.
Thank you.
And we just want to offer you 2 resources today. First of all, if you've been abused in any way, if you are wondering how you're ever going to recover from it, we have our prayer lines. We would love, love, love to pray with you. The kindest people are on the other end of that line. You can give us a call at 1-866-273-4444. Also, you can email us at prayer@crossroads.ca. Also, if you are being trafficked and you need help to get out, there is a network and a line for you. Write this down, memorize it if you need to. If you can't write it down, it is the Canadian Human Trafficking Hotline. That number is 1-833-900-1010. 833-900-1010. I know you can remember it, and hopefully today is the day where you start a new beginning. We'll be right back.
If you were impacted by the story shared today, hit our subscribe button and stay up to date with all of our life-changing stories right here on 100 Huntley Street's YouTube channel.